Hello and welcome to Ghoulish. I am Max Booth, an undead host, and today we have a live episode. Although it's not live now, once it was live. I do think calling a podcast a live episode is kind of misleading because this episode was recorded and get ready for this one, folks. 2023. It's been a long time coming. So for those who don't know, I and my partner, Lily Michelle, we run a book fest, a massive book fest every spring in downtown San Antonio called the Ghoulish Book Festival. It's pretty massive. We get lots of foot traffic. People fly in from all over the country usually, sometimes other countries, to attend the fest. It's a lot of fun. It's a lot of hard work. If you recall, back in 2022, when we did the first ever Ghoulish Book Fest, we released audio episodes of all the panels that we did. Well, since then, we've done 3 other fests, and I've continued recording the audio of each panel, but I haven't uploaded them to the podcast due to a variety of reasons that could probably just be boiled down to laziness, I guess. I still have the audio. Not all of the episodes, listening back recently, fit for the podcast. Like, the audio just sucks on them. But I'm going to beginning today, uploading the missing episodes that I've never uploaded. So beginning with Ghoulish Book Fest 2023, every week, in addition to a regular episode, I'm going to be releasing a live episode from the past. Now, I mean, obviously a disclaimer. These panelists will be promoting things that'll no longer, new. But that doesn't mean you can't still go check out the books they will mentioning or whatever projects they were excited to promote at the time. The topics of the panel, they should still be evergreen, you know? I mean, today's episode, we're talking about found footage. How great is found footage? I mean, found footage has been around a long time, and it still is today. Even though it's 2025 now, this episode was recorded in 2023, people still talk about found footage. It's a thing. Look it up. Let me check the panel notes. Okay, so this is what I wrote on the program for the panel, the found footage and who. From the Blair Witch Project to the cursed camcorder you discovered on the side of the road, why are we so fascinated with found footage? What about it separates itself from other genres? And what are some of the best examples in both film and lit? Panelists include Johnny Compton, Trevor Henderson, Earl C. Hausen, Susan Snyder, moderated by my good pal Miguel Miles. Now, this is a fun episode. It's not one of the wacky panels we tend to do. It's pretty straightforward. It's a lot of fun. People talking about a topic they enjoy. I hope you enjoy it as well. If you enjoy this episode, leave a review of the podcast in the places you leave reviews. And also, just keep in mind, this is a live recording, so some of the audio is louder than others. It just depends on if the person was close enough to the mic when they were speaking. I think it's pretty clear for the most part, and I hope you enjoy it. Thank you so much. So the panel should begin in just a few minutes, but I thought I would go ahead and say a few things that I do not have planned. Unlike last time, we have a mic now for the audience. So if you have any questions at the end, if Miguel allows it, you can go up and ask a question. If you decide to just keep talking, even though no one's responding to you, come up to the mic so it gets picked up on the audio, because we do record these for a podcast a podcast called Ghoulish, hosted by me, Max Booth, and Undead Host. I think that's pretty much it as far as the panels go. If you haven't been to a panel in the past, allow me to explain what this is. So several humans will sit at a table in front of mics, and they will talk about a topic, and usually an audience will sit down and watch, and they laugh when something's funny, they cry when something's sad, they get aroused when something's sexy. Sometimes if you will kind of fucked up, you cry when you get aroused, and maybe you laugh when you get aroused. I mostly just bleed from my eyeballs when I have any emotion. Now, this is a book fest called Ghoulish Book Fest. I am the guy talking into a mic. My name is Max, not Mike, surprisingly. Welcome to the fest again. Thank you for coming to San Antonio. If you already live in San Antonio, thank you for staying in San Antonio. There's nothing else to say. Have a fun time this weekend. Take lots of photos with the proper consent. Don't just randomly take a photo and go, I'm posting this online and doxing you, you bastard. Don't do that unless you want to, I guess. But don't do that though. Unless you just hate them, then it's okay. You good? Are you done sweating? Yeah? Okay, cool. So, yeah, welcome to Ghoulish.
All right, everybody, welcome to the second annual Ghoulish Book Festival in San Antonio. So we're going to be doing found footage. My name is Miguel Myers, ATX. I host a podcast called My Horror Confessional. That's why I'm here. And I wanted to introduce you to a bunch of really talented, awesome people. Trevor, if you want to start off and introduce yourself.
Hi, my name is Trevor Henderson. I'm an artist and illustrator and writer from Toronto. And I have been working kind of doing these photo manipulation. Oh, is that not working? Oh. I've been working in the kind of doing found footage style art for the last couple of years. It's kind of what I'm known for online. So I'm excited to talk about this. Yeah.
My name is Johnny Compton. I'm a San Antonio-based author. My debut novel, The Spite House, came out in February of this year.
I'm R.C. Hausen. I'm based out of Austin, Texas, and I wrote a novel called Cosmovorous.
I'm Susan Snyder. I am the token woman and the token name tag person.
Oh,
you guys completely fucked that up. I live in Austin. I write really comedic, bad shark movie reviews. I'm a 2-time Splatterpunk Award nominated writer and poet. And I'm working on my first novel with someone, thank God. So that's me.
Excellent. Thank you, everybody, for introducing yourself. Can we give them a round of applause? All right, so found footage. So I went to sleep at about 1 o'clock last night, and I woke up at 3 in the morning in full panic because I hadn't had anything ready for this.
That's the way the panels work around here, Miguel.
Yeah.
You're good.
Yeah.
So I panicked, went on IMDb, and I checked out the highest rated found footage movies. So before I go into this, I want to hear you guys, what are your favorite found footage movies?
Oh, yeah, okay. My favorite found footage horror movie of all time is a movie called Savage Land, which is just getting a bit more kind of eyes on it lately, but it is incredible. It is a fairly low-budget horror movie that accomplishes all of its scares through still photographs, which is really cool and really unique. It's about a small town on the border of Mexico that gets wiped out overnight. Everyone in the town is killed except for one guy who they kind of pin all the killings on him. And but he was a photographer who chronicled what happened over the night and day of this town getting wiped out. So as the film goes on, you get a lot of talking head stuff with him in custody and whatnot, but also you see from A to B what happened at this town through these really gorgeously spooky photos, black and white photos. It's my favorite of all time. Besides that, there's other things like Ghost Watch. There's a film called Nora the Curse, which is just one of the best movies ever made overall. Anything by director Koji Shirashi is just amazing. There's lots of really good stuff, but I'll let other people talk.
Well, yeah, I like that you mentioned Ghost Watch.
Oh my gosh.
I was not sure if we were going to count that because it is kind of faux documentary.
It's a faux documentary.
But if we're throwing that out there, then that's my favorite.
I talk about everything under the umbrella, but there is a
No,
distinction,
I'm
for sure.
always in favor of the inclusion,
Yeah.
so I'm totally down with that. So I'm going to say that's my favorite. Then otherwise, I was going to say the first Paranormal Activity. But I love Ghost Watch. I love the idea of any kind of this a fake news story that turns out to be something horrific, kind of a throwback to the idea of the Orson Welles
Yeah, the War of the Worlds
War of the Worlds
It's always
broadcast
good, yeah.
audio version of that. And so I love Ghost Watch. If anybody's unfamiliar with what it is, it's a British produced news story, fake news story that actually fooled some people in Britain at the time when it was released, about a family allegedly having a haunted house. And then not only do they find out that the house is indeed haunted, but no spoilers, but perhaps some of the involvement that they've partaken in terms of the news story content has made things worse substantially.
Yeah.
So I strongly encourage anybody to go see Ghost Watch. It's phenomenal, and it actually caused some controversy and panic among people and some other things, which is also kind of, to me, a bonus.
It also just got an amazing Blu-ray set from Second
Yeah.
Sight Films that is just gorgeous and
Yeah.
is worth your money.
Totally. It's sensational. So yeah, Ghost Watch is my favorite.
All right.
Cool. I was going to say VHS until I saw VHS 94 recently, and when Ratma popped out, that was just fucking aces for me. I thought that was rad. I like Grave Encounters. Thought that was really cool also.
That was great.
I thought that was I liked how it kind of riffed on the paranormal investigation deal, and
Yeah.
thought that was a cool one there. So those are my favorite ones.
Awesome.
I mean, I'm going to have to second the first Paranormal Activity only because, I mean, I screamed in the theater. And I mean, if those of you know me, I'm not squeamish. But that end scene, the original ending, the theatrical ending, woo! Like popcorn went everywhere, and I was like, ah! But it was just so well done the way they built the suspense with that tone that you would hear that. I mean, it was just so well done, and I love the low budget and how well it did. But another one of my favorites, this is a little bit under the radar, but you might understand why I like this one, is Open Water 3 Cage Dive, which is actually all found footage of this two brothers and this idiot woman who is the worst person on the face of the earth. But yeah, it's all found footage, and they kind of have a little mockumentary-ish, like news footage and stuff like that in there. But that's a really entertaining movie.
Great. So I did want to just backtrack a little bit and ask you guys because Trevor, you brought it up a little bit, and Johnny as well, that there's different subgenres or what people consider found footage. So I wanted to start with you, Susan. What do you consider found footage?
I was thinking about that on the drive down here. But I think we already talked about like our mockumentaries kind of included in that. I'm for the inclusion too. I think, yeah, I mean the main story, the main plot, the main point needs to be based on found footage. But I was thinking too, like Jaws 2, for example, right? This is way before Blair Witch or anything like. I mean, Jaws 2, the whole premise of that movie is that they find a camera that these divers, who we learned, spoiler alert, are eaten. But he sees it and he's like, oh shit, that's a shark. This whole thing is happening again. So is that found footage? Like, to me, maybe, yeah. Or like Event Horizon, like them finding the captain's log, showing them making the leap to Proxima Centauri, and you see what happens when they actually transition into hell, is found footage. And that has a huge impact on the plot because you're like, holy shit, we're going to hell. Woo! In the eyeballs, and there's Latin, and that can't be good. So I don't know. There's a lot. I mean, it could be pieces of a movie, but I think it's as long as it's important to the plot, the storyline. I think it could be found footage.
Yeah.
Well, something like Cannibal Holocaust, which
Yeah.
was
Oh yeah.
one of the first horror, I believe the
Framing
first.
the whole thing
Exactly.
is found footage of a bunch of jerks.
Yeah. So I think some people are like perfectionists where they say of found footage has to be all from the perspective of the camera.
No.
And then others like Susan and yourself are saying that, no, it could just be a portion of it, right?
An
is it a
important
percentage?
portion, yeah.
Does that have to be more from the camera point of view, or if it's even just a couple minutes, it could be found footage. You know what? There's a line. We can't.
Yeah.
We have to set the rules right now.
I would expand it and say like even stuff like epistolary fiction, like found letters, or it falls under
Dracula,
Dracula could
Frankenstein.
could be considered found fiction because it's letters, right? Someone
Yeah.
is compiled in some capacity. But if you can want to get down into it, like there's the mockumentary stuff, the faux docs, the stuff that is specifically like we found a camcorder and there's
Yeah.
awful things on it.
Well, that's a good point. There's like the subgenre stuff. So there's like comedy horror, like
Yep.
WNUF Halloween Special, or like What We Do in the Shadows, and then or like One Cut of the Dead. Has anybody
yeah.
seen
Oh
One
my
Cut of the
God.
Dead?
What
So
an
freaking
amazing
good,
movie.
amazing. And then you have like the technology one, which is like Paranormal Activity, Unfriended. You have like Dash Cam,
Yep.
Spree, all that sort of stuff. You know, so there's.
Elements of Ring could be considered like the
I haven't seen
original
that one. What's that one about?
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah. I
Sorry.
haven't seen it.
Ring?
Yeah, the original the
Ring.
Oh, Ring.
Yeah,
Okay, I
sorry.
thought the movie was Elements of Ring. I was like, what?
No, I'm just talking about like the cursed video they find.
Okay.
That kind of like it's intrinsic to the plot. So
Yeah,
it
yeah,
could
yeah,
be
yeah.
considered part of it.
Okay,
Yeah.
cool. So, what is it about found footage for you guys? Johnny, I'll go with you first. What is it with found footage that brings you back?
I feel like it can really do something that is difficult to do in any other form of fiction. Kind of going back to what Trevor mentioned, the epistolary fiction style. That's kind of the basis for that. You found somebody's letters and they're kind of first person confessional. You can incorporate all these different things. Found footage can do that with the video aspect, and there's a verisimilitude that is hard to replicate when you're going the more traditional filmmaking route, which is also a blast. It's fun. I love all varieties of movies, but found footage keeps me coming back because there is something about feeling embedded with this and the faux authenticity of it. The first time I went and saw a found footage movie, I was there for an advanced screening of Blair Witch Project, and I'd been following it online. That was when I first got heavily online, so I'd been following, there's this movie, and they do this technique, and so I knew everything about it going in, and still like going in there, and I remember distinctly leaving the theater and being surprised it was still daylight outside. And I've never had that experience with any other movie where it felt like I had actually been on this journey with him. And me and my buddy still talk about it, me and my best friend, because we went to see it together. And we went, and it was like 2 PM or something for the early advanced screening. And so, of course, the movie's about an hour and a half or so. So you get out, it's definitely daylight out still. But we were just shocked. It was like, oh my God, I can't believe the sun's still up, because it felt like we were there all night with them. And the last thing we saw was, Mike in the corner getting screamed at. So I feel
Wow.
like you
Spoiler
can't-
alert for everybody.
Oh, my bad. Yeah. Sorry, came out in the 90s. Hopefully you've seen it or at least heard of some things about it by then. But yeah, it was just, I feel like that experience, you can't really convey some of that same energy, at least not as easily or as well, or it's not as designed to do so with more traditional styles of filmmaking.
Yeah, that's great. And RC, how about you?
Yeah, I mean, I saw the Blair Witch in the theater also. I didn't get the internet till afterwards, so I thought that shit was real. Like I'm not like buying true crime
A
books.
lot of people thought it was real.
You know what I mean? Like they portrayed it like it was. And I thought that was, for me, that's what I thought was cool, how they break that fourth wall, and it's like, now it's like, you see some found footage where they make that look so nostalgic and so true to the period they're trying to like replicate, and you're looking at it like, damn, it looks like my birthday party when I was 12. So that makes it just resonate so much more, because now it just makes that, it looks like something you see on the news, like back then. So yeah.
Susan, how about you?
I think it's like a lot of it is the POV for me. Like you're coming at it like you're in it and you're looking at it from somebody who's participating in it. So that draws me into the action a little bit more. So like Cloverfield or something, like love monster movies, love kaiju, and it was just nice to be, I don't know how nice that would really be, but it was nice to watch a movie where you're kind of part of the chaos and part of the panic and that kind of feeling. So I think that the POV of found footage movies really helps me out a lot. You can relate, I guess, a little more to the characters, and if someone's a dick, you can kind of feel more like resentment towards that character. So I think it kind of just makes you feel like you're part of it. And there's also that thing about the Blair Witch that I really liked is that they hid away those actors. And they weren't allowed to speak until the movie came out.
And they use their real names.
And yeah. And that to me just made it just so brilliant that you did that. Like, oh no, it really is real. No one knows where they are. Oh my God, you know. And then you have, you know, Cannibal Holocaust caused a whole kerfuffle thinking they actually killed these people. So it's Diodata, right? That's how you pronounce his last name, Diodata? Yeah. And he just passed away, right?
A little while ago.
Or did he?
A couple years.
Yeah. But that was pretty amazing that way back then, you watch a movie that is just so disturbing, and because it never would have gotten that far if it wasn't found footage. And the fact that it was a found footage movie made people really, I mean, it's kind of obvious when you watch the movie it's fake, but it's just amazing that people really thought, like, these people died. So I think only with found footage could you really have that breaking of the fourth wall where, you know, you kind of wonder, like, is it real? Some of them do such a good authentic job that you wonder, and some of them it's just obvious, you know. Like
Cloverfield did it with a monster, like a giant ass monster, something totally implausible, and it made it feel plausible with that format. Yeah.
How about for yourself, Trevor?
Yeah, pretty much just a lot of what everyone else has been saying. I feel like when you see a movie, you know, editing, music that's non-diegetic, all this stuff are always going to be the things that keep you at a distance from what's happening on screen. So when you have a found footage horror movie that's executed really beautifully, you are removing all those obstacles, and suddenly you as the viewer are like that much closer to what's happening on screen. And I think you can get a real closeness and a real intimacy with a horror movie that you would not be able to get by default with any other kind of horror movie, any other kind of subgenre of horror film. And I also really like how the scares in found footage horror movies have to be framed in very specific ways that apply to like the strengths of that format more than anything else. Like you'll get the quick shot, you know, of something at the end of a hallway or whatnot, and you know, a lot of the time what you don't see in these circumstances really just adds to it more because the best ones play with like the grain of the film or like, you know, sound design in different ways. So there's just it's really cool that it's a subgenre of horror that has its own rules that are just for that by default through like the format of it, and I really love that about it. And while I have the microphone, everyone has to seek out. There's a super scary version of Blair Witch Project that was only at Sundance that looks absolutely cursed. It has no credits at the end. It's the closest it can be to like an old bleached VHS tape you found on the bank of a river. It is so scary. You can find it through like not great means on the internet, but that's the only way. But it's really cool. Yeah.
Nice. So I'm wondering, with that, with found footage, I feel like the impact is there. The first time you see it, you're shocked by it. Does it reward viewers for repeated viewings? Like, do you get that same thing, that same rush, after you've seen it, like Blair Witch for the third or fourth time? I don't know. That's one of the things that I always come back to, whether or not found footage is my favorite genre. I love it, but I don't know if it's my favorite genre. So that's one of the things that kind of pulls me back a little bit. So I was wondering what you guys thought of it. Anybody can answer. But
for me, I can attest that I'll watch Rec every year. I'll watch
Rec.
Watch every Halloween,
Yeah.
And it still makes me legitimately scared in a way that other horror movies don't. Rec especially is just a roller coaster ride, and it never. I've seen it like 5 or 6 times, and it is always that scary every time.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's like anything else. I feel like there's different ones that are more rewatchable and more rewarding on a rewatch than others. I loved Blair Witch the first time I saw it. I got to admit, like, I kind of fell out of love with it for a while because but you know, when you're kind of first in line, you also don't maybe know the things that other people are going to pick up from your mistakes, or maybe not mistakes, but missed opportunities. But like Rec, for instance, I love that you mentioned that because you can rewatch that and there's things in the background, and there's still, even though it's found footage, there's still filmmaking execution going on with it that is on a different level. And even Ghost Watch, one of the reasons why I really like Ghost Watch is because when you replay then they do this in the film, but there are certain scenes where the ghost was there, and so the first time you saw it, you didn't. The first time they ran through, you didn't see that. And so then picking it up and then admiring how they hid it, all these features. So some of them are amazing on a rewatch because of these elements. Lake Mungo
Oh yeah.
is another one where the entire movie gets reframed because of the ending, and so you can rewatch that and still just admire the skill it took to present the movie in an entirely in one facet through the first 90% of the movie, and then the last 10% it kind of reframes everything that you saw previously. So some of them are incredibly rewatchable because of that, and then others are not really going to have that factor, and it just kind of depends on how they execute it. But I think that applies to a lot of different techniques of storytelling.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, it really just comes down to like the things that make me want to watch a non-found footage movie again, like the compelling character interactions, the dialogue that I find interesting. Like if they do a really cool practical effect, I want to see that again. Like the tone of the movie, all of those things add up that make you want to watch a regular movie. Kind of does the same thing with a found footage movie. If it's all just the shock or the reveal or a jump scare, then it's probably going to be a diminishing return on a rewatch.
So we've been talking about the great ones, the ones that we love. Susan Snyder wrote a book called Encyclopedia Sharksploitanica, which is amazing. Everybody should get a copy. And it's essentially, she's written reviews on almost every single shark movie, good or bad, right? And the reviews are hilarious, or her reviews are hilarious. But she does good and bad movies. So I want to know what are some of the bad movies that you would tell people not to watch or just stay away from, or the ones that you watch when you're high and just laugh at. So
Found footage?
Yeah.
Oh boy.
Or is it all love up here for the found footage?
No, I mean, the thing is, like, I was thinking when y'all were just talking about is, you had brought up VHS, and the VHS movies I think are great because it's like a taster, it's like a sampler platter of found footage, and not all of them are good.
Yeah.
I mean, of course, that is the eye of the beholder, of course, but like, even the first VHS, some of them are really good and scary, and some of them are just clunkers. And so and then as the VHS series goes on, you get that in everyone. You've got the good, the bad, the in between. Like the one with the I don't know, where they're in Latin America somewhere and the devil is born and follows. That's fucking awesome. Or the one where he's in an alternate universe, again, the devil, and it's a satanic world, and I really like that one. Yeah, but there's some of them that are just so bad. But I think that's a good sampler platter for people who want to kind of taste a little bit of found footage, because it's all different. So you don't have to, you're not sticking with the same plot for 90 minutes of found footage, and I think that might not be so interesting to everyone to be with the shaky camera, and you just get glimpses of things in the background, and you don't really get to see, or in like aquatic ones where you're kind of like the camera's half below the surface of the water and half and you're bobbing, what I mean? And that's not for everybody, but I don't know, like if a full clunker found footage isn't coming to my head right now. But VHS, there's some. There's some.
The found footage, the bad found footage, asking about the bad found footage movies is funny because there are probably thousands. It's just just something that was released on Tubi and nobody, like 5 people have seen it. The only ones you hear about are the good ones because the word of mouth propels it, and then those are the ones everyone seeks out. But I'm sure if you sought out some bad found footage movies, you could find a lot of really, really bad found footage movies.
I've seen some, and I can't think of the names of them.
Exactly.
When you said that, it made me think that, in another way, I guess found footage is somewhat unique in that, to me at least, it is, when it's bad, it's very forgettable.
Yep.
It's so inoffensively just bland and boring and bad that I never remember. I can remember like scenes and flashes of them, and I'm a stick to the movie. Maybe who knows what's going to happen at the end, and they're usually pretty short. Sometimes 80 minutes, 70 minutes, and just stick it out, and then you forget immediately. Like, okay, that was a waste of time, and it's just really easy to forget like a bad found footage movie as opposed to like different other genre or different other techniques in filmmaking that I think stick to your mind a little bit more when they're bad. To me, the found footage bad movies are just they just slip away immediately.
Oh, I thought of one. Okay, this is kind of newish. Shoot, have you guys seen the Horror in the High Desert? There's 2 of them. There's a new one called Minerva or something like that. Yeah. Those suck. I'm sorry, that's my opinion. But they're kind of a mockumentary-ish kind of feel to it. And like, I didn't know that it was. Like, I thought it was a documentary, and I'm a huge documentary geek, especially when it comes to like serial killers, horror, or whatever. So I'm watching the first one, and I was just like, they kind of had me. And I have to say, they did pretty good for a while, and like, the people that are being interviewed for the documentary and the news reporter, and I was like, oh shit, this is a fucked up story. And then it got to the point where I was like, oh, this is clearly not real. Yeah. And then I Googled it, and I'm like, idiot. Of course it's not. Well, there's another one that just came out too, and it's just like, those aren't, to me, they piss me off. It's just not, it's okay to a point, and then this second one, nothing freaking happens. It is the most boring. I mean, luckily they're short. I think they're an hour or so, but it's like, it is the most boring, and then like nothing happened. They're like, it's all a mystery. Who knows? I'm like, what the heck, dude?
Yeah, the first one is a real gambit because they fully commit to that talking head thing, and if you're on board for that, because nothing happens, it's literally just the talking heads about this missing hiker, then you'd be like, wow, they did a great job. It's very realistic for all the pros and cons of that. And there's like one spooky scene at the end, which is, I thought, pretty spooky, but it's not worth really your time. I like the second one personally. I thought it was atmospheric and effective, but I absolutely see why it would not be your thing.
I'm just glad you saw it. Okay.
I'll throw
and
one
that
out
guy.
Oh yeah, please do.
Diary of the Dead.
Oh yeah. Oh boy.
Yeah, I know.
Romero.
I said it. I love Romero, but I don't know. That was a miss for me.
It's better than Survival of the Dead.
Well, yeah.
It is. It is better than Survival.
Yeah. So my next question, I guess. So we went through like kind of the first wave of found footage horror, and then it was ubiquitous. It was everywhere, and then that kind of the quality dropped, and I feel like it was kind of like zombies, where for a while everybody was making a zombie movie, and then they stopped making it. Same with found footage, and then found footage kind of came back, and I think it was VHS probably that kind of revitalized it. But what do you think of the newer found footage, like Creep?
Awesome, love Creep.
Yeah,
Creep and Creep 2 are both great.
Yeah,
great
like-
movies. Yeah.
Those movies make me legit like uncomfortable.
They're deeply uncomfortable films. It's great.
So what are some of your favorite ones from the newer class, like Creep, or even what was the one that came out last year or 2020? Host.
Host.
Host was great.
Yeah.
Host
So
was
talk
great.
about those.
I mean, I like all the movies you just brought up are great. I don't think it's as ubiquitous these days. I don't think it's everywhere, but I think it's happening in slightly different venues. Like, I just this week found, I was hoping I'd get a chance to talk about this, this documentary, or it's called Fake Documentary Q. It's a YouTube series. It's two Japanese creators, and they're just like 5 to 10 minute segments, and I think there's about 10 or 11 of them. And they are amazing found footage horror. They are so creepy and so well done and clearly knowledgeable about found footage.
What's it called?
It's called Fake Documentary Q.
Okay.
Yeah, if you search that, they're all online, and they release one every 2 months or so, I think, and they're getting more and more ambitious as they go. The last one they did it's called Last Countdown, and it's like a 12-minute long video with 12 different cursed found VHS tapes. So every 60 seconds you'll get a different one, like a totally different style, like animation, like weird cutout kind of thing, and then just like, school children saw this and immediately started screaming, had to go to the hospital. And there's one that's just 20 minutes of a woman on an elevator with a security camera in the corner, and it is so effective and so scary. I cannot recommend enough. So I guess I would just say that it's still happening better than ever, just not through like the big budget like Paranormal Activity kind of stuff you'd expect.
Yeah. Where do you find? Do you find this like on YouTube?
YouTube.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's crazy that it's for free. Honestly, it's like they need to be making something big soon because the talent is there.
Well, I think that's one of the things about found footage. It lends itself to low budget, not big budget things, and I think that's why you find a lot of directors, first-time directors, going found footage way, because not anybody can do it, but you can do a very effective found footage movie.
If you're a smart enough writer and you know what you're doing, you don't have to spend a cent on special effects. You can.
So what you're saying is I can't do it then.
You can do it. I think anyone can do it. But it's hard to do really, really well like they're doing, I think.
Yeah. So how about for the rest of you, Johnny? What's one of your more recent favorite found footage movies?
Hell House LLC 1 and Part 3.
Very good.
I was not as big on Part 2. The first one, I loved the first one, even though it doesn't, I don't like Part 2 because there's a plot beat in Part 1 that I could kind of tell this is the reason why they're staying in this place, even though they should leave, but they don't actually tell you, and I thought, you're smarter to do it that way. Then they actually confessed to it in Part 2, and I was kind of like, see, shouldn't have done that. But then Part 3 kind of redeemed it anyway, because it does some really wild stuff, but I thought the first one was, like, out of this world. Why
is it always clowns with you, Johnny? Why is it always
I mean, it's not even, for me, it wasn't even the clown. It was, honest to God, like, the whole, once you find out the climactic event that happens, but even right before it happens, and that poor girl is tied up, and she's part of the show, but then some stuff starts happening. I'm not going to reveal too much, but the way she is screaming, this is not part of the show. And it would be like if we're up here on this panel, and all of a sudden, like, Miguel started vamping out. And, like, but everybody was sitting here watching him eat us and thinking, well, this is, like, weird. What does this got to do with found footage? And, like, we're up here trying to be like, no, help, you know.
Let's see where they're going.
Somebody bless some water. Is there a priest in the audience?
Yeah.
And, like, if nobody's reacting and just watching us get murdered. It was like, I felt like such a sickness in a good way, if you can say that, with that moment, just because I was like, this is so effective. I can't imagine what it'd be like to be in a scenario like that where she's screaming for help and everybody's just thinking, I think this is just part of the show, right? And they don't know that they're also in as much danger as she is, and she's the only one trying to get help and also warn them. And that is like one of the most effective horror scenes I've seen probably in the last 5-10 years or whatever. I love that moment so much.
I gotta rewatch this.
Oh yeah.
Sick Fright Night reference, by the way. How about you, RC? What's one of your favorite from the most recent past?
So a new one I saw that I'm curious as to what everybody thinks about whether or not it's found footage or not would be Deadstream. Because
Oh, I was.
yeah,
I would say so.
And I think that's kind of interesting because it shows that it's not a static medium. It doesn't have to be a VHS tape. And it doesn't have to be something you found that happened in the past. In fact, this is being live streamed, and I think that's kind of cool because that brings it into like a modern time because that's how the world works now. Everybody wants to go live.
Yeah.
You know, so I think the fact that one, and I thought beyond that, it was hilarious.
So well
You know, it had some genuinely scary stuff. It had like a definite kind of like an Evil Dead vibe to some of the effects and some of the violence, you know.
Yeah.
And so I really enjoyed that one.
Yeah, I love that one.
Susan?
I always have to give a weird answer, but because this is found footage, real life found footage, was the Elisa Lam story in the Hotel Cecil. And so everybody know about that? Okay.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, so it's this like creepy video of a real woman, and she was the one who ended up in that water tank on the top of the hotel, and her body decomposed in the water, and the people were like bathing and drinking and brushing their teeth in corpse water.
For everybody that's staying at a hotel today.
Right. So like that to me, and then there's been some documentaries, some good, some bad, that came out of that, but to me that's like kind of maybe points to why found footage is so interesting anyway. It's because it's news. We see found footage all the time on the news, you know, but that one really creeped me out. And then there was the whole, you know, kind of those online detectives, you know, are still trying to figure out what really happened to this girl. But she was acting so weird in the elevator footage, and she's making these weird gestures, and it looks like she's hiding from someone, and then she just kind of goes off, and then she's never to be seen again until they found her body. Damn. I mean, I was like, that is creepier than a lot of the found footage movies that are fake. Like, that was just...
That elevator sequence in particular was almost like life imitating art because those movements, they look like the kind of stuff that somebody would choreograph for a movie, for somebody going through like some kind of demonic type thing or some weirdness like that. And so we recognize that from the art we've created that's supposed to replicate that. It's just a weird circle.
And that's what's so fascinating about it. And I think the poor thing actually had some mental health issues, and she was off her meds and like all kinds of weird stuff, and that's how she ended up in the water tank. But just that footage, it's like, that's it right there in a nutshell. You know, it's just like this weird, unexplainable stuff that you find. It's just like, what happened? Like, what happened? And I think the Blair Witch does that good at the end, too, because the reason I like it is because there is no ending. Like, it's just kind of like this random, like, you know enough about the legend of Blair Witch to know what happens, like, if you're paying attention, to know what happens at the end, but nothing really happens at the end. But you're left with this feeling of complete and utter devastation when you walk out of the theater seeing that the first time. So I think, yeah, my point is just that, like, even real life found footage can be, I mean, I hate to say my favorite because the poor thing, what happened to her in real life, but it's so interesting to me. Yeah. Effective, thank you.
So we have a little under 20 minutes left. So I want to do something with you guys at the end. So I want to leave some room for questions first. So
Are you gonna vamp out?
So I wanted open up the floor to anybody who had any questions. If you could please come up to the mic because we are recording. Yeah, go right ahead. Come up to the mic, and you got to pick up the stick. That's the talking stick. So everybody at home, it is a baby on a stick.
Baby head. Okay.
Baby head.
Yes, that's baby head. All right.
Baby head. All right. So I was wondering if any of you had any observations to make about, like, for example, the relation to. We've been talking about commercial feature films and TV shows and things like that, but internet creators and how found footage has been really employed in, for example, starting back 10, 12 years ago, the ARG community, the alternate reality games, which are like all the Slender Man channels, and then how this has essentially found footage, I think, thanks to internet and independent, just filmmakers, amateur filmmakers, has now evolved into this new thing called analog horror. And now we have like the back rooms and different and Local 58,
they're my favorite.
Yeah, and so I was just wondering if you wanted to maybe talk a little bit about that evolution of the genre into that.
Thank you for your question. Anybody?
There's a lot of that out there, and I'm not as knowledgeable as I'd like to be. But the stuff that really works is really, really good. Local 58, I think, was kind of very foundational for what the modern version of that looks like, and that's Chris Straub, and he's still doing new stuff. He also has like roots in classic creepypasta. Candle Cove was written by him as well, and got turned into that amazing series, Channel Zero, eventually. But yeah, especially Local 58 and the Kane Pixels, the Backroom series that got picked up by A24 to be turned into a feature film directed by him. It's crazy how it's. I feel like it's kind of turning into like it went back from being very in the public eye found footage, and then ARG kind of became the new kind of independent thing, and now that's becoming the public thing again because it's getting kind of taken in by people who see its popularity. But I think that there's great stuff happening with it.
Would you? I'm not as familiar with like backroom stuff. Would you enlighten me and the audience?
Sure. Well, the Backrooms is a concept that was created, I think, by someone anonymously on Reddit, like 5 years ago or so, which is just the idea that you're going about your daily life, whatever, and then you kind of just drop through the floor or through a wall that you're leaning on or whatnot, and you're suddenly in this awful, like yellow wallpapered space or yellow walled space with a buzzing fluorescent like we have here and like a gross shag carpet, and it's just the horror of it is that you're in this space that shouldn't exist, that just goes forever. Like it's just endless awful yellow rooms, and the concept really caught on and people started doing, there's video games of it, and we were exploring these spaces, and like any kind of a concept on the internet, a horror concept on the internet, it got really embellished, and people keep adding to it, and now there's like 60 different levels that all look different, and there's monsters in it and all kinds of stuff. But the initial concept of it just being this space that shouldn't exist, that you're in between like our world and somewhere else, and you just wander until you starve to death is the scariest it's been, and I hope that when the film comes out that's what they'll hew to, I hope.
All right. Does anybody else have any on the back stuff now?
I mean, I know you mentioned the Slender Man and Marble Hornets. I remember watching that series and really being into Marble Hornets, and I'm not as familiar just like off the top with names with a lot of the internet content, but I do think you're correct in that it is essential to helping found footage continue to, in the style that preceded, we talked about earlier, kind of found letters in literature. And I know that was one of the things I was really fascinated with on the internet for a while as well, where it was like the blog story that this is somebody's running journal online, but it's a horror story. So like the I never know how to pronounce this. Diana House, something like that.
It's amazing.
It's fantastic. I love that one. And that's one of the earliest, I mean, that's kind of pre-creepypasta-ish even, and kind of a prototype for that. And it's also just a running log of, hey, I moved into this house, and it again captures that sense of the real. I moved into my house, and this is just me online blogging about things that are happening in my house, and eventually stuff starts deteriorating, and the situation gets worse and worse, and they're just live blogging it, so to speak, and it's kind of rooted in that, and I feel like the internet is built to kind of capitalize on that in a way that previously I'd say it could do so exceptionally. Now I feel like it's, and I don't mean it's in a bad way, but there's you almost have flipped over to assume stuff is fake on the internet. Before they could kind of fool you.
Yeah.
Default, it's fake.
Yeah,
By default.
like my default setting is this is probably some kind of fake anything. No matter what, I mean, I could be watching, I don't know, somebody getting just a regular interview after a sporting event. I'm like, did he really say that?
Count his fingers.
Yeah, is that really, you're waiting for somebody to fool you.
Yeah.
Whereas for a while there, jump on the internet, you read something on the internet, it kind of felt like, we have this vast space of information. All of this has to be real, and I'm finding out stuff I've never heard of before. And then every once in a while, somebody can sneak something in and make you think, oh man, like that actually surprised me. I thought this was real, and then they flipped it on me, really effective. So you kind of lose some of that now because of the nature of it. But that said, that just encourages people to kind of do it in different, more creative ways to hopefully still make it as effective as it's ever been. So I think there's still more space of it, I think, to explore, and it has a kind of found all of the different avenues that you can utilize the internet in the best way to capture some of the found footage style of storytelling. Yeah,
Absolutely.
And what's cool too is like going outside the internet and just like film in general is that it's still like we talked about Cloverfield, where it's like a found footage with a really like high production kaiju monster in it that's done really well. And okay, correct me if I'm wrong, I remember this as found footage in my head. Troll Hunter?
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
I thought so. Okay, and that is an amazing movie, and those trolls are amazing. Like it's so good.
It's incredible. Can't
And
recommend Troll Hunter enough.
Yeah.
So it's like that mixture of the like what could be low budget and realistic looking with the high production value that sometimes can, especially with a monster movie like that, it's just so well done. And you see the monsters. This isn't just little hints and a toe and a what. You see them.
Yeah.
They're so well done. So, like, I think there's still kind of new frontiers going on. It could be really well done found footage if they have the right budget for it, I guess. But
Well, it's like you mentioned earlier. I love that you mentioned Event Horizon. That was on my mind. I feel like that's one of my first entries into found footage before I realized what that was. But that's probably the most effective moment, most memorable moment. And so there's not a whole lot of, I mean, there can be, but like we haven't seen as much found footage in space or, found footage in some of these other areas. It does kind of feel sometimes like I enjoy it, but we're doing another one in an abandoned hospital, huh?
Yeah.
yeah. Oh, and I mean, and another kind of clever movie too was Insidious, and I just saw that. I'm a little behind the game. I just saw that, and you're watching a person watching found footage. So no, you're not watching found. Well, I mean, you do, but you're watching someone's reaction to stuff that he's finding and these murders that he's watching, and the lawnmower one I thought was.
Sinister.
Oh, Sinister, not Insidious. Sinister.
I was trying to remember.
Sorry, I watched both of them, and I'm like, I don't remember the Ethan Hawke one.
Yeah. The found footage stuff in
Sinister.
Is amazing.
The sound design alone in that movie. Oh my
Yeah,
God.
as nightmarish. That messed up my sleep for a while.
All right, I want to keep some more time for any more questions. Does anybody else from the audience have any questions they'd like to ask? Wow.
Quiet
Wow.
crowd. It's the first panel.
Come on up.
Sinister.
Thank you for picking up the baby stick. I appreciate
Yeah.
that.
Okay, I don't know if anyone's heard of this. I think it debuted on one of the cable channels, Cinemax, HBO, and I want to say it was before Blair Witch. And at the time that I watched it, I didn't know what it was called until sometime later when it kind of got a following. And I found out The Last Broadcast.
I thought it was the last broadcast.
That
Was it
actually
Jersey
was that did predate Blair Witch.
It did, yeah.
And it was only because of a distribution error that they didn't get out before Blair Witch. But damn it, they were first.
That's the found footage that sticks out to me years and years and years later, because I thought it was like a real documentary style thing until the ending comes. And
I was gonna say the ending kind of drops the whole thing a little bit, but
I just didn't know your opinions on that.
Yeah, I remember the last broadcast having like tremendous buzz after Blair Witch came out, because immediately people were like, hey, if you liked this, there was this precursor to this that kind of does it in a more, I think a little bit more of a, not polished, but structurally, it has more of a plot structure. I mean, Blair Witch, like I said, I loved it. I'll vouch for the quality of it and everything, but it also is literally just get lost in the woods and meander for a long time until we finally get to the ending is kind of the entire plot structure of Blair Witch. Yeah, that's literally all they told them. Versus Last Broadcast, I think one of the big selling points for it is that it does actually have a plot. It actually has a story and a direction in plot beats. And so that was kind of the vibe. I remember at the time being online, people saying, oh, if you like this, you might like this other one that actually has more of a story to tell and more like actual kind of structure for its characters. So I personally like the Last Broadcast. Like you said, the very, very end does kind of, it's incongruent with, what they're trying to do a little bit, but overall, I can be a little bit forgiving of that sometimes. I feel like I get it. You make a decision and you're thinking, am I going to stick by the book, or am I going to kind of try to go in a different direction to deliver what I think is going to be the cooler ending? They don't stick the landing, I don't think, but I can understand why you make that decision, so I can be a little bit forgiving of stuff like that.
Imagine being those guys. Like, you did it first, and then, like, Blair Witch comes out, and you're like, dang it. And they're the ones who got, Blair Witch took off. That made so much money. And that's what everybody's thinking about. And those guys did it better, and they did it first.
I think in fairness, Blair Witch was always going to, of the two, I think Blair Witch is just more marketable. I think it would have been harder for Last Broadcast to achieve the heights that Blair Witch did. Like the viral nature of the way they did. The Blair Witch Project, they had built the entire backstory of the town. It's funny, the movie itself is so kind of loose and doesn't have much story to it, versus like I remember spending a ton of time online and reading like all the backstory that they created for Burkittsville and the Blair Township and Rustin Parr and the witch and like where she came from, and then there was like comic books that came out that also told the backstory of the town. So they built this entire huge backstory around it that I think amplified it. And Last Broadcast is kind of just a lot more self-contained, even though it does ostensibly center around the Jersey Devil, which I loved too, growing up. So
we talked about that last year on the Cryptids panel.
That directly appealed to me. So yeah, I can understand being those guys and feeling that upset, but at the same time, I wonder if part of them understands that like these guys that made the clear supernatural horror movie probably were going to get more buzz for theirs anyway.
Oh, and there's a documentary on found footage. I think it's on Shudder. It's fairly new. Yeah, did you guys check that out? It's pretty good, and it does talk about the Last Broadcast and what all happened with that. No.
Cool.
It wasn't until you mentioned that it was about the Jersey Devil that I even knew what we were talking about. Because I was like, I remember seeing it now. I was like,
I've seen it like
shit,
15
I don't know
years
this one.
ago, and all I remember is that I didn't like the ending. I thought it was pretty good, and it's about the Jersey Devil. So I got to see it.
Very same.
Yeah.
Yes.
All right, thanks for your question. You want a Snickers? All right, anybody else want a Snickers? Want a question? Anybody else have any other questions? Step on up to the mic. Got to pick up the baby. Thank you. Rules is rules.
Hi. Okay, so about a month ago, I finally braved two found footage movies that I could not finish.
Ooh.
One was Megan is Missing.
Oh boy.
Yeah, and the other, can't for the life of me, serial killer thing.
Oh, PC tapes?
Poughkeepsie tapes.
Poughkeepsie tapes, yeah.
So I'm curious, have there ever been any where you have basically said, nope, not for me? that it has nothing to do with quality, but everything to do with no, this is too real.
Yeah, August Underground. All the August Underground films are just not for me in any way or shape or form. It's a series. I think there's like 5 of them now, but it's like just a serial killer's kidnap people and he's doing bad stuff to them. And I'm like, I don't really need to. I'm good, thanks. But I would have been the same with Megan is Missing. I was like, oh, maybe I'll watch this, and everyone was like, buddy, don't go near it. It's not yeah. But anything like along those lines of just like a serial killer and here's some basically stuff. It's not my jam.
I remember like when Faces of Death came out, speaking of found footage, and they're remaking it. Why? I don't know why. And we all know it's fake now. I mean, like, what are you going to... But I really, like, the hype around Faces of Death, too, is that it was all real. And, I mean, it had me, and it took me... I couldn't finish it. It took me forever to be able to sit through that entire thing. And the animal cruelty stuff really got to me, too. So, same with Cannibal Holocaust, but that was real. The animal part was real, yeah.
Another one that I'm just happy I somehow, as a kid, just sidestepped and avoided. Anything like that, it would have traumatized me a bit.
Yeah. Guinea pig.
I managed to avoid those two.
Yeah, I didn't. Guinea pig, and there's another. I mean, I've seen it, but like I wouldn't want to revisit it.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of stuff like that where I'll see it the first time and I'm like, I shouldn't. And it's not quite found footage, but it has a found footage-ish aesthetic. The Men Behind the Sun, which is a really horrific, and I do not recommend anybody ever watch it.
Don't do that.
But when I was younger, I was very much in I'll watch anything. I'm hardcore, and it was like, oh, this is unpleasant.
Yeah,
and so now as I've gotten older, I'm much more in the same like you, Trevor. I don't know, like a lot of that stuff. I'm like, I'll just read the description, and I'm like, if it sounds like to me, a lot of it's more just if it sounds like nothing's actually going to happen other than we stuck a camera on some people and here they're going to suffer, and there's not actually going to be like a story. And frankly, I'm like that with nowadays. I'm like that with even just more traditional filmmaking too. But I feel like there's not going to be something happening other than just, hey, watch people get butchered. I understand gore hounds. I'm not knocking anybody for it. Just for me, I'd like my gore with some. I like my chocolate syrup with ice cream. I don't just go into the fridge. Yeah, chocolate syrup. So I like to have it, in conjunction with something else. So I feel the same way about gore and suffering.
Not the chocolate syrup slander coming from.
I know.
All right, guys, we are coming up on our time. I did want to do a rapid fire thing with you guys. So if you guys don't know, Max hates rating movies. He doesn't rate movies, and it pisses me the fuck off because I want to know. So on my podcast, we rate movies on a scale of 1 to 5 upside down crosses. So what I want to do, 1 being the worst, 5 being the best. So what I want to do is rapid fire, ask you guys some movies, and you give me your ratings, and Max has to edit this. Okay. All right, so we're going to do As Above, So Below.
3.5, solid 3.5.
3.
Yeah, 3.
4.5 upside down crosses.
That's what
I
I'm
love
talking
that
about.
movie.
That's what I'm talking about. All right, let's go Lake Mungo.
That's a classic, 4.5.
5.
I don't think I've seen that.
Okay.
5.
Yeah, how's that feel, Max? Okay, let's do Rec 2.
Rec 2.
2.
Really? Oh, 4. Rec 2 is great.
Yeah.
No, I was saying Rec 2. I was
Okay,
thinking
got
like.
Oh, yeah.
I think a 4 as well. I do like Rec 2.
It's solid. It's
Yeah.
Yeah, a 4 for that one.
4.
All right, and just a couple more. Let's do Deep House.
1.
I haven't seen that yet.
Whoa, 1.
Sucks.
Oh, now I'm not going to see it.
All right.
I have not seen Deep House yet.
Okay, all right. We'll talk after this. Trevor. Let's do The Sacrament.
1.5, maybe.
I have not seen The Sacrament.
Okay.
I haven't seen that either.
2.
2, okay. Ganjam, Haunted Asylum.
It didn't do anything for me. Everyone hyped it up. 2.
2.
I'll give it a 3. I didn't mind Haunted Asylum.
I'm going to mention that I was a fill-in on this panel, and I have not seen that either.
It totally shows too, RC.
All right, and then the last one, let's do Willow Creek.
2.5.
3. I'm probably generous.
Yeah.
I have not seen that either. So.
5. I love cryptid stuff.
I was gonna say the cryptid
Gotta
part.
show it though.
Yeah.
At some point.
Oh,
I get
yeah.
it.
Okay, I'll take off a upside down cross. 4 upside down crosses.
Awesome. All right, well, that was the panel today. Thank you, everybody, for joining. And we'll enjoy Ghoulish Festival.
Thank you.
Sinister.
Sinister. Insidious, sinister.